Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I am Mrs. Deuschle. I'm an English educator, and the purpose of this channel is to try and simplify English language concepts for you. However, if I don't quite hit the mark for you, you are more than welcome to check out other channels. But thank you so much for tuning into this one. And in this episode, we will be focusing on the part of speech, adjectives. Let's get into it. In the previous episode, we spoke about nouns. And we mentioned that nouns are naming words. They name things. And then we also pointed out that we have 4 types of nouns, namely common nouns, proper nouns, abstract nouns, and collective nouns. And in this episode, we're going to talk about adjectives. What are adjectives? Adjectives are words that are used to describe nouns. They describe nouns. They tell you more about a noun. What do I mean? Let me explain. What is this? This is a cup, right? It's a cup. If I asked you what noun this cup is, you tell me it's a common noun. It is something I can see and touch with my hands. It's tangible. Now I'm going to ask you to describe this cup, which brings us to adjectives. You're going to tell me that this is a big cup, or you're going to tell me that this is a turquoise cup, referring to the color, of course. You're going to tell me this is a heavy cup, a big cup, round cup, a beautiful cup, a pretty cup. What I just used now to describe this cup is called adjectives. Big, heavy, beautiful, turquoise, those are all adjectives. We use adjectives every single day because we have to describe the things around us. If I had to describe my daughter, I would use adjectives such as, my daughter is beautiful, she is lovely, she's intelligent, she's brave, she's kind-hearted, she's lovely, she's adorable. I could go on and on and on to describe my daughter using various adjectives. You could do the same with absolutely everything around you. But here's an interesting thing about adjectives. Even though at school we focus on only teaching you that adjectives are words that describe nouns, we don't delve deeper into the fact that there are more adjectives out there that you should know about. Oh, English, once again, why does it always have more and more and more? Are they trying to confuse us? No, they're not. However, as long as you know that an adjective is a word that is used to describe a noun, you are sorted. But it is very important for you to be able to identify different types of adjectives in a sentence. That's why I'm going to present to you all 9 adjectives today. So let's do it. Here are the 9 types of adjectives. The first one is attributive adjectives. Then we have comparative adjectives, superlative adjectives, compound adjectives, possessive adjectives, demonstrative adjectives, proper adjectives, predicate adjectives, participial adjectives, and numerical adjectives. That is a mouthful. We can do this. Let's start with the first one. Attributive adjectives. Attributive adjectives provide additional information. They tell us more about the noun. However, attributive adjectives come before a noun. Here's a sentence to demonstrate. They dined at a rich and luxurious restaurant. What is the noun that is being described in this sentence? Of course, it's restaurant. And what are the words that are used to describe this restaurant? It's rich and luxurious. Note that the words rich and luxurious came before the noun, telling us more about the noun, which in this case is the restaurant. We could have just said they dined at a restaurant. But that's boring, right? That's why we have adjectives, to describe nouns, to add color to our writing. Yeah? Look at the next example. He inherited an old watch from his grandfather. What is the noun that is being described in this sentence? Yes, it's the watch. The watch is being described. What is the adjective that's being used to describe this watch? Old. Telling us more about the watch. It's not a new watch. It's an old watch. Notice the adjective came before the noun. That's what makes it an attributive adjective. Now let's move on to the second one, comparative adjectives. It's in the word compare. Comparative adjectives, when we use adjectives that compare two people or two things, where we're highlighting the differences between them. Now, when we're using comparative adjectives, we usually, always actually, add the suffix er to the adjective. For example, look at the following sentences. Whales are larger animals than dolphins. Which noun are we describing here? We're describing the noun whales. And we are saying that they are larger than dolphins. So the adjective that's used is large. But now we are comparing two things, saying one is bigger than the other, one is larger than the other. And therefore we do use the suffix er to the adjective large in order to make it a comparative adjective, comparing the whales to the dolphins. Look at the second sentence. We moved to a cheaper apartment. What noun is being described here? Yes, apartment, of course. Clearly, the first apartment we lived in was much expensive. But now the second apartment is much cheaper. So we're comparing the first apartment to the second apartment. Those are the two nouns that we are using. But the adjective that we are using in the sentence is cheaper. We added the suffix er to the word cheap to make it a comparative adjective, indicating that we're comparing more than one thing. Let's move on to the third adjective, superlative adjectives. Superlative adjectives are used to compare more than two people or more than two things, highlighting which one is the most extreme or supreme in a particular quality. And with superlative adjectives, we use the suffix est. For example, in the following sentence, Adrian is the fastest member of our team. We described Adrian and we said not only is he fast, but he is the fastest, meaning no one else in the team is as fast as him. So we're comparing Adrian not just to another team member, but to all his team members. Second sentence. Out of all my books, this one is the oldest. The noun that's being described there is a book. And what word are we using? Oldest. Because clearly I have a lot of books, but this particular one is the oldest. The adjective is oldest. Let's move on to compound adjectives. Compound adjectives are formed when you join two words using a hyphen. And the purpose of this is it describes a noun more precisely. Let's look at examples. She had enough of the double-dealing salesman. We are describing the salesman. Which words are we using? Double-dealing. You don't want to be with that salesman, hey? So the words double-dealing are joined by a hyphen, describing the salesman. That is a compound adjective. It's when I take two words, join them with a hyphen, and I use them to describe a noun. In the next sentence, my happy-go-lucky daughter loved the trip to Disneyland. The words that we use to describe my daughter, it's happy-go-lucky. So we used happy-go-lucky. We took those three words, we joined them by a hyphen, and they perform, or rather function, as an adjective describing the daughter, which brings us to compound adjectives. That's how they are formed. The next one is possessive adjectives. Possessive adjectives indicate or show rather possession and ownership. Look at the following sentences. Sydney spent the day with her parents. She spent the day with her parents. The noun that is being described is the parents. Yes, and the adjective that's being used, it's her, indicating possession, that the parents belong to her. It is her parents. It makes it a possessive adjective. Look at the following sentence. His shoes are very stylish. The noun that's being described here are shoes. But it's not just shoes. The shoes belong to him. It is his shoes. So the pronoun his that indicates possession is an adjective, a possessive adjective in this particular sentence. Now I know some of you guys are like, but her and his in these two sentences also are possessive pronouns. Yes, they are indeed. That's why you need to look at the question that your teacher is asking. Is she asking you about pronouns or is she asking you about adjectives? and then you can answer accordingly. If he or she is asking you about adjectives, you are going to definitely say that this is a possessive adjective rather than a possessive pronoun. But if they're asking you questions regarding pronouns, you are going to say it's a possessive pronoun instead. Yeah. The next one is demonstrative adjectives. Demonstrative adjectives show where something is in space or time. Look at the following sentences. Those shoes are on sale. I'm describing the noun shoes. I'm saying those shoes, not these shoes, those shoes. They're demonstrating which shoes I am talking about. Next sentence is, that song makes me happy. Not this song, that song makes me happy. I'm describing which song, I am demonstrating which song makes me happy. Proper adjectives are formed from proper nouns. They show us that something is linked to a specific person or a specific place or a specific culture. If you look at the following sentence, you'll understand what I'm saying. The sentence, I think Italian food is tasty. The noun that's being described in the following sentence is food, and the adjective that's being used is Italian. And please note that Italian is written with a capital letter because it originates from the proper noun Italy. Therefore, it makes it a proper adjective because we said what type of food it is. It is Italian food. It could be Chinese food. It could be Korean food. But in this case, it's Italian, and that makes it an adjective describing the noun food. The same goes for the next sentence. He was reading a Russian newspaper. This newspaper in the sentence is a noun. It is being described, and the word that is being used to describe the newspaper is Russian. So we can tell that the link that's being made here is to the country Russia, and it's not a newspaper that originates from South Africa. It originates from Russia. It's a Russian newspaper. We're describing that this is not just a newspaper, it is a Russian newspaper. So if you are South African and you're reading this newspaper, you might not understand it because it originates from Russia. It is probably written in Russian. And again, Russian is written in capital letters because the proper noun that it is derived from is Russia. The third last adjective we'll be talking about is predicate adjectives. What makes it a predicate adjective is the mere fact that the adjective does not appear in front of the noun, but rather after the noun. For instance, if I gave you the sentence, the beautiful girl is eating bread, the adjective beautiful comes before the noun, which makes it an attributive adjective, which we spoke about, right? But with predicate adjective, the adjective comes after the noun that it's describing, not before the noun. For example, in the following sentences. Adria is tall. Not the tall girl, the tall Adria. Adria is tall. We're still describing the noun Adria, and we're saying that she is what? Tall. The adjective is tall. However, this adjective did not appear before the noun. It appeared towards the end of the sentence. Predicate adjective. The next sentence says the steak looks delicious. The noun that's being described here is the steak, and the adjective that's used is delicious. Note that delicious, the adjective, did not come before the noun. Otherwise, it would have been the delicious steak. If that were the case, it would have been an attributive adjective because then the adjective appears before the noun. But in this case, the adjective does not appear before the noun. It appears towards the end of the sentence, but we can still see that delicious describes the noun steak, even though it's not in front of the noun. The second last adjective is participial adjectives. Participial adjectives take the form of a verb. However, they don't function as a verb in the sentence. They function as an adjective. They look like verbs, but function as adjectives. These verbs usually have or contain the suffix ed, walked, talked, jumped, pooped, or the suffix ing, walking, talking, pooping, jumping, eating. However, they don't function as a verb in a sentence. They function as an adjective. Look at the following sentence. I put on my running shoes. The word running in the sentence is not used as a verb. Do you notice? It's used as an adjective describing the type of shoes I'm wearing. These shoes are not used for style. They're used for running. Last but not least, we have numerical adjectives. Numerical adjectives indicate quantity. Okay, so the amount of the noun, how many of this particular noun. But note that we have definite numerical adjectives and we have indefinite numerical adjectives. What do I mean? Let's look at the following sentences. Definite numerical adjectives give you the exact number. The exact number. They don't even confuse you. Look at the sentence. There are 8 oranges in the bowl. How many oranges are in the bowl? 8. We're describing the noun oranges, the quantity of the oranges, and there are 8 of them. So the number 8 is not just an adjective, but it's a numerical adjective because it indicates the exact amount of oranges that are in the bowl. On the other hand, we have indefinite numerical adjectives. Indefinite numerical adjectives do not specify the exact amount. Look at the following sentence. Several men came looking for you. Interesting. We don't have an exact number. It could be 10, it could be 12, it could be 20, it could be 5, or even 2. We don't know. But several men. The word several is an indefinite numerical adjective describing the amount of men that came. But it's indefinite because we don't know the exact number. It's not 1, 2, 3. It is indefinite. We don't know. It could be any amount. That concludes our adjectives, people. Oh my goodness. Can English be this hard? If only you take the time and you go back and you rewatch this video. In fact, you do your own research, go into Google, watch other videos, find out about the different adjectives. This is how you improve your English. Do not wait for your teacher to do all the work for you. Do not wait for her to print out all the worksheets for you. My goodness, we have Google, we have the internet. Use it. Use it. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. I think it went better than the first one. Practice makes perfect. I'm very happy that a lot of you guys have joined in. Thank you so much for the comments. I see them. I love you guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.